and we'll be like, whatever, we're just going live because we can. There we are. Hello, everybody. It's Gavin Seim here with my buddy Titus right there with his helmet on and his dirty face. What have you been eating? What is up with that?
I ate chocolate because I had a lot of M&Ms.
Wow, lots of M&Ms. Too many M&Ms. Hey, guys. Hey, Comido, Team Explorers, everybody. Howdy in there. Flathead, Wise Guy, Ghost, all you guys. Hey, like this, subscribe it, share it. You know the drill. Let's keep the Exile Show going. This day's episode of the Exile Show is coming to you live. Are you giving him the piece? Like, whoa, there he is. Live from Mexico. Back in Mexico after a neat trip to Colombia. Gonna do a little Q&A. Now listen, hey everybody, shout out to all of you. Thank you. Big shout out to all our Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/Gavin Seim. Slowly growing over there. That's always the way it is, but really appreciate those of you helping produce our videos. All right, you wanna go play, don't hurt yourself, don't be too loud. Cut. So I thought we would do a quick live stream. Now, I'm gonna be doing a whole awesome video, so I don't have any cool footage to show you today or anything like that because I have a ton of footage to show you, all right? I probably have 200 to 300 pieces of video, okay, that I have to put together to complete the vlog from Colombia, okay, of the beauty of the Colombia, the people, the beautiful people, the nice people, the everything, like all this stuff, everything from like me landing a paraglider in a tree. In my defense, I wasn't the only one up there who did it, to just dealing with what's going on in Colombia, okay? So I got my little hammock here, all right? I'm tempted to lay down, but I should be professional about this. So what do I think of Colombia? Little Q&A. I'm going to watch for your guys' questions, just kind of comparing Colombia to Mexico and all that good stuff. What do you think about having freedom? Because I think if you live in the USA, you probably don't even really know what it is to see that. Now, a lot of you guys watching know what freedom is. You know what it's like to be left alone. But as Blue ISIS and the thugs that run our country literally terrorize our people and the world, hello, Guadalajara, shout out to all my friends here in Latin America. But as the USA literally terrorizes the world, I look around and I'm like, we don't even know what freedom is anymore in the USA. So that said, I'm very sensitive to any sort of restrictions, any sort of government invasion on your life. I went to Mexico City, okay? I took a red eye with my wife and 5 kids, and took a flight to Bucaramanga, Colombia. It's about a 4-hour flight. Now, Colombia is South America, all right? And if you look on a map, you'll see, you've got United States, that's North America. You have Mexico and Guatemala and all these places in the kind of Latin American, southish, northish, right? Really, up here is still kind of North America, but it's not cold like North America, so maybe we should call it Middle America or just Middle Earth. Let's just call it Middle Earth here, okay? I know I'm not really following the technical terms here. However, Middle Earth seems like a good name for Mexico and all its surrounding landscapes. Now, if you leave Middle Earth and you go down to, I know it's Central America, but Middle Earth sounds so much better, all right? Because Central, Middle, in English is basically the same. So we're just gonna call it Middle Earth. If you cross down, you get down to Panama, and that's where you hit the gap. That's where you hit the gap. Titus is jogging over here. You hit the gap, and you can't really cross the gap by car. Now, this is the problem with the break. Technically, it's the same continent, right? There is land mass crossing over. However, you can't practically cross. Due to political disputes, I guess is what it comes down to between Colombia and Panama, there's no highway. There are rumors that you can drive through there. It's like a major expedition, and there is land crossing it if you want to go through like the 60 miles of jungle. That would be an epic vlog, I'll grant you, but I don't think I'm ready to do that in a van with a wife and 5 kids. However, you can go down to Panama, take a ferry around, and then get your vehicle down to Colombia. This is a fairly large operation and not something to do for a week-long trip. This would be something to do to spend a couple months in South America, cruising around in the van, and maybe I'll get to do that. But we're gonna have to build the show a little more, I think, on the Patreon and back the support before we can fund an expedition of that level. So, flew down to Bogota, Colombia. I actually know people here in Mexico that are from Bogota. So I flew into Bogota. Bogota is a large city of about 8 million. And of course, because of its large size, it has more troubles, right? But it's still, there's a lot going on in Bogota. We took a flight, then a hopper from Bogota to Bucaramanga. Now, Bucaramanga is about 1 million strong, and this is where most of our trip was centered around, is Bucaramanga and the surrounding towns, like Florida Blanca, stuff like that. If you guys follow my Instagram, instagram.com/Gavin Seim, or my Facebook over at facebook.com/callmegav, you saw some of the photos and adventures and little clips I posted along the way, but I'm going to be combining most of those into the upcoming vlog, the Exile show that I'm going to be doing for you guys on the adventure. Differences between Colombia and Mexico. Bear in mind, I'm not making a judgment on Colombia in terms of like what's better or what's cooler. Colombia was absolutely beautiful. It's incredibly alive. It is growing everywhere. There's fruit everywhere. There's wild avocado trees and fruit, and it's just, it's a beautiful place. I was on the lookout for spiders the size of my head. Apparently those do exist, but probably not where I was. I was told that sometimes coral snakes come onto the patio, but coral snakes aren't that aggressive. They're just really, 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 really poisonous if you get bit by them. It seems like, in terms of spiders, I keep coming back to this. Spiders, black widows, brown recluses, the kind of things that we have in the States. And these huge things, in English we call them banana spiders. Apparently they're large and very poisonous, but I was like asking around, like, so do you have a spider problem? And they're like, no, we don't have a spider problem. I mean, like, isn't it weird? You go to all these places and you have a perception, like, if I go here, I will certainly die. It's the fake perception that we have of Mexico in the USA because of the propaganda. Maybe you go somewhere and you think, oh, the snakes are terrible here. And the people that live there are just like, yeah, whatever, we just deal with it. So it's interesting to see, no matter where you go in the world, people are just living and doing their thing. People seem very happy. Now, Bucaramanga is not a tourist town, I wouldn't say. It is a fairly prosperous town. It's a university town, and it is a very clean, beautiful town. Most of the time I was in a town that's kind of skirting and connected to Bucaramanga, called Florida Blanca. Now, Florida Blanca was again really nice. We would hop an Uber. I missed having a van because when you fly, you don't have your van. We'd hop an Uber and we'd cruise downtown. As you guys that follow this channel know, I did a live stream or two from down there. I even did one from down on the streets downtown at night, walking around with my family. It was very nice. People were very friendly. I encountered no problems. Are there places in big cities that you wouldn't want to go? Of course. That's the case anywhere you go in the world. Did I feel unsafe in Colombia? No. Do I have any admonitions or concerns about what I saw there? Of course, I always do. There's problems in Mexico. There's the U.S.-sponsored drug war that's causing a lot of problems here, and the politicians helping promote that. There are problems with corruption in Mexico, and then you go to Colombia. There's corruption there too. But what you see in Colombia, you have to understand that Colombia, if you study up on it, they kind of came out of the, quote, drug war. Now, that's not to say that it's not going on at all, but the USA had their hands in the drug war in Colombia, and it caused a lot of problems. Eventually, people kind of got tired of that, and when Colombia said enough is enough, that's when the USA kind of came to Mexico and really started ramping up the drug war here in earnest. Now, I'm simplifying that history a little bit. However, it's kind of what the USA does, right? They terrorize and interfere with the entire world and then call it freedom. And if you don't like it, they have bombs for you. Colombia now is start growing and prospering and seeing more peace. And I think because of that and because of the hard times, what I saw is a bit of manipulation of the people there from their politicians to say we don't want to go back to the violence, right? They kind of refer to it as the ending of the violence, after the violence ended. Now, bear in mind, this was the worst of this probably only ended, 20 years ago, something like that. I've already been talking to people in Colombia. I had one person from a university in Colombia writing me, wanting me to come back and to talk about civil rights and stuff with their university class. I felt like the people I was dealing with, particularly the youth. I went downtown. I met in the landing zone while flying my paraglider some young people, and they said, hey, we're having a hamburger competition. Yeah, hamburgers are a thing in Bucaramanga. Premium specialty hamburger restaurants. There's a ton of them there. And there's like this national hamburger competition. So we went downtown with the family to actual downtown Bucaramanga. And we saw these huge lines outside the hamburger shops. And we went to a hamburger shop that had a little bit less of a line called the Viking. It was actually a man that was half Colombian and half Norwegian. I may be getting that wrong. But it was a Viking-themed premium hamburger restaurant. It was very good. If you go to Bucaramanga, go downtown and go to the Viking. It was nice. There's a lot of great hamburger shops downtown there. I'm talking to college-age kids, right? And we're kind of talking, one of them was a law student, and we're talking about just these situations. I'm talking about the fact that guns seem to be fairly restricted, and the culture isn't a culture of we all want guns, because apparently it's never been a culture where people were heavily armed, and they're just like, well, no, I mean, we're not used to seeing everybody carrying guns. And rather than freaking out when I presented the idea of the government's manipulating you, the people that commit the most violence against us, whether in Colombia or anywhere else, always end up being our government. And it's imperative that we retain our rights, not simply guns, but speech and resistance and the ability to say no. It's imperative that we retain those things, as well as not allowing government to surveil us at all times. Now, we had a good conversation about this, and I felt like, unlike the USA, where everybody is so faction divided, I could talk to the students down there and be like, hey, let's rationalize this out and talk about it from a human rights perspective. And we really were able to have a good conversation. I actually really enjoyed it. So shout out to you guys for taking us out to hamburgers. It was lots of fun. I'm going to be showing more of all this in our big vlog entry. However, what are my concerns? Does Colombia have more freedom than Mexico? This is a hard assessment to make, I think, because understand that I've spent many months roaming Mexico in a van, like on the ground, not flying into a capital city. If you were to go to Mexico and only go to Ciudad Mexico, Mexico City, okay? It's neat, you'd see a lot of things, you'd see a lot of culture, but if you based your assessment on Mexico of Mexico City, it would not be very accurate, because that's like saying I'm gonna go to the USA and base everything on Washington, D.C. However, I definitely felt more safe in Colombia than in the United States, just like in Mexico, because the United States is the #1 terrorist nation in the world. It is a very dangerous place to visit, and people down here in Latin America know that. Everyone knows, even in Colombia, which is a continent away, they understand that our police are insane, and they're like, yeah, we don't want to deal with that. And one of the things I noticed when I came into Colombia, just like Mexico, just like is typical of Latin America, police simply abusing and murdering people on the streets and putting people in hospitals, it's simply not tolerated in most of the countries down here. Only the USSA allows a police force that is absolutely psychotic and lets them get away with it, and then pretends they're patriots for supporting it, as we abuse the immigrant, the poor man, the everyday man. I mean, literally, the police in the USA, Blue ISIS, are the #1 terrorists. They kill more than all other mass shootings and terrorist organizations in the USA, bar none. Okay? And so when you come to Latin America, they're kind of in shock that we tolerate the level of corruption from our police. Sure, they have corrupt cops or they take bribes and things like that. But it's important. What I did see a mirror of in Colombia is public officials are not allowed just to wig out and treat you like a terrorist. They're expected to behave like servants to the people. Does that mean they're not corrupt at all? No, of course not. There's always going to be the corruption. But the public servants aren't allowed just to be psychopaths, okay? I'm trying to adjust the camera a little bit because I'm afraid the wind is blowing in it. So when I came into Colombia, I flew in to Bogota, all right? Big airport, town of 8 million people. I go through customs, show a passport, no big deal, except for it's annoying. Like, we shouldn't have to show papers to travel, to go into a country. None of these things should be happening in any country, not in the USA. You don't need papers to be a human being. And so I realized that this is happening everywhere. However, what I saw in Colombia was a little bit of, I guess I walked through the airport and I'm like, oh, the USA has their fingers in this place. Because they had the security theater going on. Not aggressive like it is in the USA. Not psychopathic morons and murderers like our police, or just stooges who have no clue what they're doing like the TSA, okay? They were friendly. And you came in, you waited in line, you gave them your passport, they stamped it, you're on your way. Now you go to the next stage. The first thing that bothered me is I was being asked for my passport all the time. Even when I got to the hotels and hostels, they said, no, we need your passport number. The way the laws work here, we're supposed to track where everybody's at and record those numbers. And I was offended by this. I'm like, you should not be tracking anybody. That your government has no right to know where I am. Now, again, I'm qualifying this. They're not aggressive about it like the US is, but they have these rules. And I felt like people there were maybe a little more willing to follow the rules because they came out of really hard times not so long ago. You have a new generation whose parents just came out of the hard times in Colombia, and this seems like a debate that's happening now. How much surveillance state, how much control are we going to deal with, all right? And so, yes, they were very friendly. Yes, Colombia and Mexico kind of get along. They like each other, and that's the general impression that I get. I come to the next stage, all right? And the next stage is customs. So I went through immigration, and I'm like, what is this? There's another stage? And again, they're looking at all our passports and paperwork. Not aggressively, but I'm like, I'm supposed to fill out a little declarations form. Now, here's where it gets kind of funny, okay? I come to the gate, and I got all my kids, and they're kind of getting cranky. It's been a long night. We barely slept. It was a red-eye flight. And we come up, and they're going through stuff again, all right? I give them this little paper I'm supposed to fill out for my family, and a couple boxes were checked yes, and a couple boxes were checked no, and I hand it in, and I get, the first one was in Spanish, and I kind of am learning, I'm learning Spanish, and I kind of knew what it said, but she gives me an English one, and she's like, fill this one out. Your Spanish one is a mess. So I fill out the English one, and I go over, and I'm handing it in, and we're kind of clogging up the line, and they're routing people around us, and I'm getting a little irritable about, I'm like, man, way too many papers, please, stuff going on. A security guard comes over, and he looks at my form, and he's like, no, you don't want to check yes on those boxes. Just check no all the way down. And I'm like, are you sure? Is that what I need to do? He's like, no, seriously. And this is like a private security guard. Understand that when you go to airports in Latin America, you don't have a TSA. If you deal with government officials, it's just police that are there, or it is customs and immigration people. The security in the airport is not a government organization, it's just private security. So you go through, and yeah, you have the metal detectors and things like that, and you go through, and it's kind of similar to the US, right? The US is always trying to get everybody to copy their security theater so it legitimizes it, but it's way more laid back and friendly. Now I'm in this customs line, and the guy's like, no, just check no on everything. Here's a new form, check no on everything. And I'm like, okay. And I check no. Then the lady comes back over, and she's like, bien, now she's happy. You guys go on your way. Now I cross through, and here's another security station with metal detectors to enter the country, right? So we've come through immigration. We exited the plane. We went to immigration with our luggage. After we collected our luggage, after going through immigration, then we go through customs with our luggage. And then as you exit customs, there's a security screening that scans bags and stuff, just like when you go into an airport, except for it's to leave the airport. Now, I'm not saying this is uncommon. I'm just like, wow, I expected there to be more freedom here, and this seems a little police statey to me. Again, not aggressive, okay? the security guard, and this is where you see a lot of differences in Latin America and Colombia, is people are just way more chill. The security guard knows you've been standing there dealing with the paperwork, trying to get everything done. The kids are fussy. He walks over, he opens the barrier that bypasses all of the baggage scanning and everything, and he's just like, just go that way. Whoops, I hit the camera. And so we just went that way, and he just had us bypass all of their screening. So they're way more chill, but this is my admonition in seeing this, in going around Bucaramanga, right? We were out with these people, and they're like, oh, we can give you a ride home. We have our Kia Sedona. And there's like 4 or 5 college kids, right? And I'm like, well, there's 7 of us. Do you really think we can fit 12 people in a Kia Sedona? Welcome to Latin America, people. Yes, I do have a video. This will be in my vlog. So we packed 12 people. I mean, it's like Sandra sits in the front with Swan, the kids sit in the back, the 2 guys sit in the back, and the girls sit on their laps, and I crowd into the corner, and it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous how many people, and it was awesome. And I'm like, so like in the US, we get in big trouble for this. Is this like, are we supposed to be wearing seatbelts legally? And they're like, well, yeah. But, you know, it's not that big of a deal. We do it, and if the cops see us, we'll just duck our heads. Like, it's not a big deal. And I'm like, yes, that's the Latin America I know and love. All right? In general, bear in mind, again, I was seeing the big city. If you get out in the small pueblas, I'm guessing you're going to get even more chill, less police presence. I just saw in the big city in Colombia a few more rules. But I think my biggest concern that I saw is in the name of safety and protecting the people of Colombia, the government is starting to try to Europeanize. They're starting to do a little bit of surveillance state stuff, like you have to enter passport numbers. One of the most disturbing things to me is when I went to fly out of Colombia, they had immigrations there to leave the country. Now, admittedly, the immigration was mainly just to stamp your visa that you were leaving, right? But I don't care. It's never okay to prevent people from leaving somewhere, from leaving a country, from leaving a state. That's why, you know, the USA is starting to do this on the road borders, and they're preventing people from leaving. That's how you lock people in. Now, I doubt that's the case so much on the driving borders. It's certainly not in Mexico. But making a comparison, I love the Colombian friends I made. I think it's really cool down there. And I just want my Colombian friends to, if I could scream one thing, and there was numerous times in Colombia where I wanted to do this, I would see things and I would say, guys, the USA is manipulating you. They're getting you to mimic their police state in the name of security. It won't work. It's never worked. It will only bring your country back into chaos. It's not really bad there. It wasn't like USA police state. Don't get me wrong. And I thought it was really neat. I'm just making a comparison to express things that are concerning because I want the new generation of Colombia to be bold for human rights, to be bold against the surveillance state, to be bold against people that ask for papers and demand for restrictions and controls, because you guys need to say no. We need to say no. The reason the USA no longer has freedom is because people said, no, it's for safety, it's for security, it's for our heroes, it's for the children, and we didn't say no. And if you don't say no, you will always become a slave. And so please, especially to the new generation in Colombia, to the youth, be bold for your neighbor and for human rights, and don't tolerate the least infringement of your rights, from your right to travel, to your right to speech, to the right to protect your family. Be defiant now while you can. So in comparison to Mexico, when I came back in, Bogota to Mexico City, the largest city in Mexico, and pretty much the largest city in the Americas, right up there. I think it's bigger now than New York, and even then Rio, I think, is the big one in Brazil. I may have that wrong, but it's basically, Mexico City is basically the largest city in the American continent, and if it's not, it's jockeying for position. So I fly into Mexico City, the biggest airport in Mexico, and I come in and I get off the plane, and I've got our little forms filled out, you know, for when you're entering the country, and I walk in, and there's immigrations, there's this really short line. Whereas to leave Colombia, right? To leave Colombia, there was a line of like 30 minutes and immigration officers. And I'm like, this is not okay, guys. If you want to stamp the thing when I'm leaving, whatever. But you know what? It's not okay for you always to be asking for our documents. It's not okay. And I don't care this narrative of we're just doing it to keep safe. We're just doing it to make sure everybody stays safe. No, you're not. Anyone who tells you they're tracking you and asking for your papers and trying to control you as a way to keep you safe is a liar. And no matter what country you live in, you shouldn't tolerate it. Now, the people that need to resist that, though, are the people that live in their respective countries. As the traveler, we're not in a position to be able to resist that when we're just passing through. It needs an ongoing resistance of the people, all right? Now, we get off the plane in Mexico City. There's like 2 desks with 2 ladies sitting at them at immigrations. Okay, the international airport, off the plane, come out of the concourse. They're like, there's maybe a 5-10 minute wait because the plane's just empty and people are going through. You walk up and she's like, chink, 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 chink. I mean, there's 7 of us, right? It takes like 3 minutes, everything's stamped. She's like, welcome to Mexico. And we walk in, there's no checkpoints, there's no theater, there's no searching bags, there's nothing. You walk out of the airport and I walk out and I look out at the airport and I'm like, we're home. All right, and so I have to say that I was more impressed. Should there be any restrictions? Should we have any of this immigration garbage? No, because immigration and passports and all this stuff, people shouldn't need papers to travel anywhere. And people say, well, no, we have to track it because otherwise terrorists will come in. Professionals that actually want to hurt people are not stopped by stupid security theater tactics. They have the right fake papers or they go around it. It's simply a lie. Just like the immigration in the USA is a lie. Just like the idea that there's such a thing as illegal immigrants. Just like the idea that the immigrants are what are hurting the USA. Just like the idea that we need a wall. It's all a propaganda lie to keep us enslaved. And so I was just refreshed coming back into Mexico. For all its problems and areas that it needs to grow, it was so chill, right? And I walk out of the airport and the federales are standing there just on their security beat on the main parking area of the airport. And they see Titus, my little white-haired kid, and he's sitting on the baggage cart, bebopping around. And the federales are over there with their big guns leaning against their truck, and they're just giggling at Cyrus and I'm at Titus, and I'm like, yeah, this is good. So if I was to make a comparison, I would say Mexico is more chill. In Mexico, for example, they don't care how long you stay. Yes, you are supposed to get a visa, but Colombia, now I don't know if these laws are followed. I haven't been there long enough, but Colombia only allows you to be in the country 6 months out of the year unless you're a resident, right? There's really great things in both. What I did find is the people in Colombia were very neighborly and welcoming, right? And they're known for this, maybe even more so than Mexico, because they're just so direct and they're so chill, right? And what I mean by that is Colombia is famous for its girls, right? The girls in Colombia are attractive Latin Americans. Honestly, I mean, I've got a gorgeous wife, and so it's not a big deal to me, but I don't think the Colombian girls are necessarily prettier than the girls in Mexico. What it is they have a very forward culture. They're very much, they just tell you what you think. They dress the same way, right? I mean, 40-year-old women with a kid will be like dressed up, super feminine, and wearing a sheer blouse. And it's warm weather, and everything is that's just how they do it, right? And so Colombia gets this reputation, particular certain towns, because guys are like, oh yeah, we can go there and get easy girls. But that's just a tourist thing for seedy gringos to go do, right? In general, the people were just charming. But what I noticed is that people were very direct in general. The girls, like I'm with my wife and 5 kids, right? I walk up to a little booth in Centro, and there's a mom and her daughter who's probably like 17 and pretty, and she's got this off-shoulder shirt, right? We walk up to this booth, and I got my wife and 5 kids with me. We walk up to this booth, and she grabs her off-shoulder shirt and pulls it down about 3 more inches on each side. Like not even blinking, right? That's just, and my wife's standing there, and it's just like, and so that's like the forwardness, right, of the culture. I posted a video to my Instagram of the girls at the gas station. The girls at the gas station that pump your gas are these pretty Colombian girls dressed in like racetrack outfits, and they're wearing makeup and lipstick and the whole works. And so it was just a very like the women were very women and very feminine and very direct, and so were the men, not on the feminine side, but very direct. You meet a guy on the street and he's like, oh, you guys are cool. I live over there. You should come over. What's your phone number, right? And you give him the phone number, and he's like texting you like, what's up? What are you guys doing tonight? And these are people that you just met. So they're so very neighborly and friendly, and I think it's a disrespect to a culture like Colombia when you hear the gringos and they're just like, oh yeah, I go to what's the name of it? I forget the name of the city that's famous for its club scene and partying. They're like, oh yeah, we go there to get girls, and I'm like, I go places because I want to meet people and I want to see things and I want to find freedom, and I appreciate that girls are pretty and that my wife is pretty, but I think that the culture, I think the bigger thing to take home from what gringos sometimes talk about in their tourist chat is that the culture is just very friendly, okay? And that's one of the things I noticed. So while, yes, I felt like there was a little bit more surveillance state, at the same time, the people were also very friendly. I feel like where the people could help themselves is by learning to say no. I felt like maybe they were a little more willing to just say, oh yeah, the government made this rule, it's for security, and we're gonna follow it. Whereas in Mexico, I feel like there's a little bit more of a rebellious spirit in general. Like, yeah, the government sucks, screw the government, and we don't care about their law, we're gonna do it anyhow. Now, again, that's a perception for me spending a week in this country, okay? So, it's interesting. It's very cool. It's a beautiful place. I absolutely go visit, right? Latin America in general. I think that in general, they just have so much more freedom. So even though I have a few objections to and concerns of some things I saw in Colombia, let me be clear. They have more freedom than you do in the USA, all right? And this is just seeing a large city. I didn't actually get out into the highways and byways and the local villages and just hanging out with people, which would be really great, and a lot of people do that. For those in the United States, of course, it's a lot easier to come to Mexico because you can simply hop in a car and drive down here. Mexico has vastly more freedom. Yes, because of the U.S.-sponsored drug war, they had problems, and I'm hoping that they learn to stop tolerating the USA, to stop playing games with it, to stop accepting our fake freedom and our bribes and manipulations and we'll fund you if you do this kind of stuff. Mexico needs to completely eject the United States government from their boundaries. Not the individuals. Individuals should be able to come and go as they please, but the United States government has no place interfering down here in Latin America, and they've been doing it for decades, and that's why you've seen a lot of problems in Latin America, and I hope people continue to resist that. I hope that people continue to call out the patriots who are loyalists to the treasonous government, who are loyalists to Blue ISIS, who are loyalists to Donald Trump and his gun-grabbing goons and his prison-filling friends and all of this stuff. It's not about party and faction. It doesn't matter if it's Obama or Trump or Bush. Our government has destroyed freedom in our nation because we did not resist. What I love about Latin America, and I want to see more of, is that they're willing to say no. And at least in Mexico, I didn't see and wasn't in Colombia for long enough to see all the details, but in Mexico, the government still fears the people. And the government knows that when they go too far, the people will stop tolerating it. And so it's interesting when I talk about these things, and I'm actually going there and I'm showing it to you guys. I'm on the streets. I'm showing you the proof, just like I've been doing down here in Mexico for 6 months now. And all the haters and the naysayers that said, oh, Gavin won't last a week, you know, the day I escaped the USA, and they're saying Gavin's going to be imprisoned, and everything they say about Mexico is what the USA is doing. The murder rate in the USA is about 3 times higher in reality. And I posted a meme, not a meme, but a bunch of data. I posted an image with all the data and the sources over on my Steemit channel. And so you can go verify those. But in reality, the number of people being murdered in the USA is about 3 times higher by the numbers, 2 to 3 times higher than it is in Mexico. And it's probably the same with Colombia. The USA is one of the most violent, fascist police states on the face of the planet. And it's crazy. It's crazy what people believe. It's crazy how many loyalists are out there, either because they're completely brainwashed or they actually work for the government and their job is to compile evidence against it. And so, yeah, go to my Steam It, Gavin Seim on Steam It, and look at my post about the murder rate. In the USA, we love killing. Everybody from the unborn to the aged, killing, whether it's the cops on the street or the babies at the abortion clinic, we just kill people. That's what the USA, and if that's not enough, we go bomb someone. I mean, welcome to the USSA. It's a culture of death in the USSA. And in Latin America, that's not the culture. Do they have problems? Do they have terrible things happen? Of course. And unfortunately, what I've started to see more and more is a lot of those problems and terrible things are actually directly backed by the USA and its treasonous government. And guys, I know this is hard sometimes, but like the USA is literally the terrorists of the entire world. We're the problem. We're the empire. We're Rome. And the USA no longer has freedom. It no longer has a constitution recognized in the courts, and it's going down. And I'm seeing this more and more. I'm seeing people starting to escape. I'm seeing people following along with what I've been saying for a few months now, saying we don't have to walk into a gas chamber. You don't need to walk into a prison. You don't need to tolerate the fake courts. Walk away. And people are starting to do that, and I think that's a very powerful thing. And so it's okay that the haters and the loyalists with their fake troll accounts and all this stuff keep on hating, because what they love is slavery. Their goal is to enslave you and to keep destroying America because they're brainwashed, because they work for the enemy, all of the above, however you want to say it. Don't believe it. And if you don't believe me, that's fine. I've showed you for months what Mexico's really like. But if you don't believe me, hop on down and come see for yourself. Because in Latin America, police murdering civilians on the side of the road is not okay. And it's not tolerated. The place that's struggling the most in Latin America right now, and it's very sad, is Venezuela. We were actually within about 100 miles of the border of Venezuela in Bucaramanga, and so people were very aware of what was going on in Venezuela, and you could tell they were upset about it and how bad things have gotten there. It's very bad, to the point where people are not even getting food and stuff, and there's no flights, there's no airlines going into Venezuela anymore. There are a lot of people leaving Venezuela, and I do hope that the Colombian government is not playing USA abuse the immigrant games, because I saw a bit of that theater. I could tell as soon as I went to that country that the USA had its fingers in the pie of Colombia, trying to manipulate them to doing things its way, and frankly, they're probably giving money to their systems. The USA is always trying to control these guys. And so as you see all these fake narratives, right, just stand up to them. Just speak out. Just tell the truth. There's no such thing as an illegal immigrant. There's no such thing as needing papers to be a human being. There is no such thing as a legal immigration restriction. They're completely 100% in open violation of the Constitution, every single one. The Border Patrol, the police, Blue ISIS, the courts, the judges, the police. It's all Blue ISIS, you guys. They are the terrorists. And the USA is lost because we failed to resist them. Know when to get out. Know when to walk away. You don't have to walk into a gas chamber. So those are just some of my thoughts. Beautiful, friendly people in Colombia, beautiful country. I would like to see more, and hopefully I will. It was nice. It was nice. It was a little stressful traveling with 5 kids. What I really prefer to do when I travel is get in my van and just spend a month like cruising in my van. It's so much more relaxing to me than sitting on the back of a $100 million airplane. The most negative experience of the flight, my main flight down, the international flight, was Aeromexico. They did pretty well. Much more legroom than Viva Colombia, which was a budget airline, but that was only a 1-hour flight within Colombia. And Skeeter, all of this stuff, right? on the way back, you're supposed to fill out the forms, and there were 7 of us, so I'm trying to fill these out on the plane. They give you these forms as part of your flight, and they say, okay, here's the papers you're supposed to fill out going into the country. And so they give you these, and so I'm like asking the stewardesses, hey, can I get a pen for the forms? Because I didn't have a pen. And the nice lady stewardesses are like, yeah, we'll try, but they didn't. So then there's this big bruiser steward guy. There's a male, which I don't see very often, but it was like Kronk, right? He looked kind of like Kronk. And he's this steward on this plane, and I'm like, hey, can I get a pen? And he's like, well, no, I don't have one. And I'm like, well, we need to kind of find one because there's 7 of us and we need to fill this out. So can you see, the lady said they would find me one. And he's like, okay, well, I'll look. Well, he doesn't come back. A few minutes later, I call him over and I'm like, hey, where's the pen? And he's like, well, I don't have a pen. And I'm like, well, we need to find a pen. And he's like, I'm sorry, that's not my problem. I said, he said, that's not my problem. This is a steward on an airplane. And he says, well, that's not I said, I really need a pen to fill these out. We have to be able to give the documents in when we get there. You want us to fill them out on the plane. He says, well, that's not my problem. And I'm like, whoa. I said, sir, we are flying on a $100 million airplane, and you mean to tell me that there's no pen on board? And he's like, no, there's not. There's nothing I can do about it. And I just shook my head. And then one of the other passengers, the Mexicans are like, I have a pen you can have. And they give me a pen to use, and it was fine. But Aeromexico is going to be hearing from me on that. Absolutely uncool, Aeromexico. And I'm sitting there with my family and 5 kids, and your jerk of a steward is like, it's not my problem if you don't have a pen. But overall, yes. Aside from the fact that I had to give my papers too much, and I didn't like the signs of a surveillance state that I saw, the edges of it creeping up in Colombia. I actually did have no problem with the governments. It's not like they were. I actually was never asked by a government official, other than at customs and at the airports, for papers or anything like that. It wasn't a Nazi Germany kind of thing. I just know where these things go because I escaped the USA. I escaped the slavery of the USA. I know where fake security ends, guys. And yeah, it was cool. If you guys want to see more from the streets, I did a video the other night from the streets, just chatting with the locals. I know some of you wanted to marry the girls at the tamale stand. And so, hey, go to Bucaramanga. I'm sure they'll be down there next week if you want to go ask for a date. And they seemed like very nice girls, and every day they were dressed very nice. So we walked by there 2 or 3 times, and they were very friendly. They were very pretty, and they seemed like they were young and single. So maybe if you're looking to move to Colombia, you should go down. And those of you that are single, if you want to meet those girls, everybody was like, oh, give me their number. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I didn't mention to them later that you were asking for that, though, and they blushed a little. But if you guys want to go down to the tamale stand, that was in Centro. It was down the side street from Florida Blanco Centro. And I'm sure that they'll be happy to meet you. The people are very friendly, and they're very direct. So if they're not interested, I'm sure they'll let you know. All right? Just be polite and be a gentleman. Okay? That's all I'm saying. I think we've covered it. Go watch the video from the streets. I will be working on the video, but it may take me a few weeks because I have a lot going on right now. I got to get some work done now that I'm back. And it is going to be a sweet video. I'm going to take my time, and I'm going to show you guys the culture and just the beauty of Colombia and everything we saw and all the adventures we had down there that I didn't get to tell you about tonight. And I'm going to try and make that video good for the Exile show. We're really trying to ramp up that production. If you guys are enjoying these videos and the full-on vlogs, please support the Patreon. Hi, what are you doing?
Turned on the light for you because I saw you out in the dark.
See, I told you I had a hot wife. Sometimes people don't believe me. Hello. So I'm going to be working on that video for you guys. If you enjoy these, patreon.com/Gavin Seim. Just pitch in a couple bucks a month. Help us make new videos if you enjoy it. Oh yeah, the coffee is amazing down there. We did quite a bit of paragliding, so I didn't have time to go all the tourist attractions. They had the giant statue of Christ up on the hill, high on the hill, and there was like a gondola that went up there. You guys have probably seen it in photos. I didn't get to go there. There was a coffee, it was like an hour away, but there was a tour that went to a coffee farm that sounded really cool. A couple things we didn't get to do just because we had so many kids and it was a long way and we were trying to fly. So yeah, maybe maybe go down there, and maybe I'll go back down there, with just me and Sandra, and we'll do some of that, and have some fun with that. So I think I've covered it. Did I cover it? Did I answer all you guys' questions about Colombia? Because that was the goal here, is just a chillin' video talking about Colombia. The rest, all the visuals of it, you'll get to see in my video about Colombia, which will be much shorter. So I didn't address, I saw you guys' comments, I didn't address questions that were not related to Colombia, because that's what we're talking about tonight. So I saw a lot of questions about that. And we'll go from there. I'm back here in a place in Mexico, and it's nice here. It's nice here. I'm told that Peru is very nice. Hope to visit that. Maybe Argentina. There was a lovely Argentinian restaurant there, and they just had these huge piles of meat that were amazing. The food I did enjoy. Colombia did not have much for tacos. They did have tamales, not tacos. Thanks, Alonzo. Appreciate it. So as soon as I got back, like literally I got off the plane, we got in the car, and I'm like, tacos, tacos, tacos. I do love the tacos in Mexico, and so I enjoyed getting back, and it felt like home, getting a spicy taco with ridiculously hot sauce on it, and just some, that good stuff, right? Love that about Mexico. But there was some really good food, lots of big plates of meat in Colombia, and I hear that the beach is very good down there, so we're going to try and check that out in the future. Would like to see Peru, I'm told, is very nice, and anything USA, I'm just going to stay away from for now, because I don't really want to go visit a terrorist nation that's a fascist police state, and I don't really want to end up in one of their prisons. A lot of people think they're going to the USA and it's going to be good, and they end up in a prison. Thanks, Trail. And it's very sad, and we have prisons full of people like Schaefer Cox and Jeff Winehouse. One of the downers while we were down there is John Lamb. A lot of you guys know John Lamb. He's a live streamer over on Facebook. John Lamb, The Last Free Man, is his Facebook page. And yeah, I'd like to check out Chile too. John Lamb got in a terrible car accident like the second day we were there up in Montana, and he should not have survived. He did. So thank the Lord for that. But I mean, if you see his truck, it's absolutely mangled. And he is, like broken ribs and fractured feet, shattered bones, and, damaged spleen and kidney and like major stuff. He was in critical condition for quite a while. And that's pretty tough. His family's struggling. He does seem to be out of the woods, but he's got a long road ahead of him. Kelly Stewart and those of us that are working with it did help put together a fundraiser for John and his family. He has, I think, 12 kids. John has a big family, and he is going to be out of commission for a while. So I'm going to link that in the notes below. Somebody can link it in here if you know the link over to his GoFundMe. Please head over there and support his family. John's done an amazing amount getting the truth out for the prisoners in our concentration camps, and just want you to shout out your support over there for John, and go find him on Facebook and things like that as well. And I will keep doing videos. This one was kind of long, but that's okay. We condensed a lot of talk about Colombia. I think I covered a lot of my general thoughts. I hope that the people of Colombia stand up and don't let their government turn Colombia into a police state like the USSA has become. And the last thing you want to try and mimic is the USSA. Everything we've done, we failed to protect freedom. We replaced it with nationalism, with idolizing soldiers who waged illegal wars, with idolizing police who rob and terrorize us. Everything we did in the USA that we called freedom in the past, in the recent years, they failed. It failed, and the USA is a complete police state. So I'm going to be exploring. Once you escape the USA, you realize, oh, it was all a lie. It's not the best country. It's not free, and I can now go and see the world and see other places because they're not worse than the USA. When you're locked in the USSA, when you're a prisoner of the propaganda or of the coming wall, you're taught to think, oh, I'm so glad I'm here. Nowhere else is safe. Total bull. The USA is not safe at all. Most of the world knows it. Most of the world, at least to some degree or another, sees us for the police state terrorist nation that we are. And yeah, Yeah. So there's a lot. I think maybe Guatemala. I want to check out Guatemala, and it's easy to go to Guatemala here. I mean, you can hop flights. You can hop flights within Mexico for like $30 one way. I mean, it's so easy to fly within Mexico. So you can just go down to the border and literally just walk across into Guatemala and go chill with the Guatemalans. We'll probably do that as a trip coming up in the future. But for now, I need to get back to, I've got to get some photo work done, some new products out for all my photographers over at seimeffects.com, and keep paying the bills because we're not at a point yet where doing the YouTube channel will pay the bills and keep us going. So we're going to keep making content. We're going to keep making videos. I did check out my Instagram. One thing I didn't tell you, and I'll show it in my videos, I'm sure, the aguacates and the avocados, aguacate, I believe is the correct pronunciation in Spanish, but I have a hard time with pronunciation, I'll admit. But mi español is poco más bien para necesito más tarde español para mucho palabras. Está bien, eso está bien, okay? The avocados, I mean, whoa. I've never seen avocados this big, guys. Never freaking seen them. They were amazing. They're like melons, right? Okay, this is a little rude, but you know how in the U.S. got the slang term? In the U.S. the slang term for boobs is often melons? The avocados are so big in Colombia that the slang term for boobs could be aguacates. I'm just saying. Okay? I'm just saying. They're huge. And no, I'm speaking literally. I'm not being crude here. I'm speaking literally of the avocados. If you go to my Instagram, there's a photo of my 9-month-old daughter holding one of these avocados, and it's almost like as big as her head. It's amazing. It's amazing. So, all right, guys. Well, we're going to come back later. We're going to ban some of these loyalist, violent trolls that are in here spewing hate against freedom. And they don't need their voice on here. They make fake accounts so fast. The feds and stuff come on here, and they make fake accounts so quickly that we can hardly keep up. The pesos, yeah, huge zeros on the numbers. Like, so I'd go out and coffee would be like 8,000 pesos. Well, in Mexico, 8,000 pesos is like $400. 10,000 pesos in Colombia is like $3.50, right? And so it just took some getting used to. I finally got used to the Mexican peso, and then I go to Colombia and there's so many zeros, and I felt like everything was always expensive. Talking to friends, they said cost of living is really not higher. In the big city, in the big university town, just looking at the prices of food and stuff, it seemed like it was a little bit higher than I've seen in Mexico. But that may have just been the perception based on where I was at. And it's not like I was living there and shopping around for the best deals, right? And so it was cool, but yeah, the pesos, I don't have one handy. Hang on. All right, you know what? Just a sec. Be right back. I'm coming. Here is. Here's some Colombian money, all right? Hang on, I don't want to fall out of my hammock here. Here's some Colombian money. This is 20 mil pesos. Okay, so 20,000, mil is thousand. Millones is million. Mil is thousand in Spanish. This is 20,000 pesos. In Mexican pesos, this would be like $2,000. No, more than that. A lot more than that. A lot more than that. Because in Mexican pesos, 10,000 Mexican pesos is about 500. So this would be like, is about 1,000. I'm all screwed up now, guys. Yeah, I'm all screwed up. Anyways, that's correct, Express. This is about seven US dollars is 20,000 Colombian pesos. So they have a lot more zeros. That doesn't mean the cost of things is that much different. It doesn't mean you're gonna get a cup of coffee for 10 pesos, right? I mean, if you go down there and it's, I would say it's fairly similar to cost of living in Mexico if you were to do the math on it, but I didn't do a ton of research on it. I can tell you that cost of living in Mexico is probably a third to a quarter that of the USA. So even people on Social Security, for example, can come down. with $1,200 a month and have a good life in Mexico and get residency and things like that, because the cost of living is just so much lower here. It's amazing. That's why one of the reasons so many people are retiring down here. So, dang, we've almost pushed tonight's live show to an hour, which is crazy. I think my battery is about to go dead, so I'm going to go. That's Colombia. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Check out the other videos I did and also the recent videos of the Exile Show. If you go to the channel homepage, you'll see a category called the Exile Show. Thanks, White Mage. And you'll see all the latest videos, including those of you who don't think my wife, that I actually have a wife. Go see my wife, the anniversary video I made. It's in there. It's in the Exile Show. Yeah, she's hot. All right. Don't tell her I said that, though. No, it's okay. It's okay. You can tell her that. All right, guys. Peace. Keep liking, subscribing. Thank you for your support. Thanks to our Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/Gavin Seim. Thanks to our supporters in the Super Chat. We'll talk to you all soon.